feeling this here.
Yeah, son, you feel it, man. Word up, son. You gotta just do it, yo. Yo, word up, man. It's a different channel, son. Word up, on, man. Word up, watch the channel, son. Different plane now, man.
It's all good.
Word up, all
this
good,
call
baby.
Is now
Every
being
good,
recorded.
son. Word up, yo.
Yo. Once again, this is Channel 10 Podcast. Make sure you check us out at channel10podcast.com. Hit us up on all the social medias. The links are there. The plays have been going up. You guys are listening a whole lot more. Definitely, if you're listening, you like what you hear, even if you don't like what you hear, make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay updated on everything that we have going on. And that's pretty much my little introduction. But what's going on, man? How's everything since we last spoke?
Yeah, everything is it's all right, you know. Over the weekend I think in total I got maybe about 3 questions total on Baltimore, so not too bad.
Oh.
I gave them my you know, kind of my, I guess you can say, my political answer. Not to get too deep into, you know, race relations or anything like that, or anything about my my personal life, you know.
Yeah.
Just pretty much say, you know, it's bad, you know, I'm really conflicted, you know. I can understand why people are rioting, but at the same time, you know, half my city, especially where I grew up, you know, it's been destroyed halfway, and it's kind of hard to see. And after that, they don't ask me any more questions and they go on to the next one.
Oh wow, that's pretty good. I mean, when you say something like that, you know, I guess, you know, how can they really respond? You say the place where I come from is going up in flames. I guess, you know, people are like, oh, maybe I shouldn't ask any more questions.
Yeah. I thought I mulled it over quite a bit, just thinking about what I can say the day after everything happened, especially with the get together I went to over the weekend.
Yeah. Since we last spoke on the situation, it's funny because we put it up, you know, just before the announcement that the 6 cops were going to be charged, and you know, the mood in the city was, you know, quite celebratory after that, and you know, there was this sigh of relief, I guess, for a second, but then, you know, Marilyn Mosby, she gave her historic speech about it, and then the curfew was still going on, and people were like, you know, why do we still have this curfew? So more people were being beaten and arrested, and then finally, last night, they lifted the curfew, and I felt free once again. So, you know, after 10 o'clock, I took a little drive around the east side of Baltimore, northeast side, to exercise my freedom, and it felt good.
That's what's up. I can't imagine, you know, being told to, you know, just be out. I mean, to be in the house by 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like, yeah, I mean, it takes you back to middle school and high school, you know.
Yeah.
It's very, you know, it feels like you're just being talked down to by the government. And it's just like, gives you this real depressed, stuck kind of feeling. And I guess, you know, of course, Saturday was the Floyd Mayweather Pacquiao fight, and you know, one of my concerns was how I was going to see it. But, you know, how we do, and find a way.
Yeah.
And Mayweather came through once again for the, 49th time? 48th time, I believe. What are your thoughts on the fight?
Well, I think I saw Mike Tyson. He said something that it was kind of, you know, underrated. I mean, it was overrated. It wasn't very exciting. And I thought that at least with someone like Pacquiao, you know, it would have probably it would have been more exciting than what it was. But as usual, Mayweather gives you a very slow but technical fight, to the point where the commentators are talking about, you know, his technical abilities when it comes to boxing. They get really intricate with it. And, you know, sometimes you don't want to hear that. You just want to see people just, you know, beating shit out of each other.
I mean, it's interesting because, you know, with Mayweather, I mean, you know how his fights usually tend to be. I thought this was the most exciting Mayweather fight that I've seen in a long time, if ever. I mean, like, he was a lot more aggressive than I've seen him previously, and I guess it wasn't very aggressive at all, but you know, one thing that I did notice is every time there was a fight stoppage, he was quick to just, you know, jump right back in there and try to get his little hits in before Pacquiao could kind of get himself together. But yeah, I thought you know, I thought it was a good fight. I do appreciate the commentary on Mayweather's technicality, and you know, he's such an amazing boxer that all of the personal flaws and the reasons why people don't like him is just like, you really can't say anything to him because he's just that good, you know. Like, I know a lot of people were saying things like, you know, you're a terrible person if you are rooting for Mayweather because of his domestic abuse history and, you know, just the way that he acts in public or the way that he's perceived to be. And you know, while all those things may ring true, you can't front on his skills. And you know, I really wish I would have bet on that fight because I would have won a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when it comes to the perception of various public figures, you know, it's funny how certain people get more attention when it comes to their personal lives compared to others. And I think, at least with boxing, especially with Floyd Mayweather, I think that's also like the way he flaunts his prosperity. It's kind of reflective on how boxing is, or at least like these big matches, the big boxing matches. Because like whenever there's like a big boxing match, especially nowadays, it seems like it has like a lot of social implications attached to it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And especially like, maybe I can only imagine how it would have been like if we went at the Green Turtle to watch this fight. Because I remember like the last Mayweather fight me and you went to at the Green Turtle, like 2 years ago now?
Something like that, yeah.
And it was funny because, you know, you had like the whites and the blacks together for Mayweather, and then you had the Hispanics for the guy whose name I don't know.
Oh man, that was crazy. Like, yeah, that was really crazy. And it's funny because, like, you know, boxing just has this hit, and you know, fighting, I guess combat sports in general, is so divided along race and nationality. It's really insane. Like, that was just like, I just remember every time that guy whose name we can't remember, anytime he looked like he was doing a little something against Mayweather, the Hispanics on the one side of the bar, they just erupted in excitement. And, you know, it's interesting because it's kind of cool to see that, because it's like, oh man, you kind of feel happy for him.
Yeah.
I guess, and, you know, it's the same thing with the UFC, you know, especially, you know, when the Brazilians are rooting for Anderson Silva, or, you know, the Hispanics root for, what's his name, with the brown pride tattoos, and all of that. I guess, you know, fighters are like our real life superheroes sometimes for, you know, whatever race or whatever nationality we come from. Even back in the day, remember when they had the Canadians who used to come through WWF or whatever, and they used to have America versus Canada, and it used to be a big thing like that.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah. But
yeah.
I guess Floyd gave us a good look for the black people. Another victory for black people, along with those officers being charged. I guess keeping along the same lines, I think we talked about this the other day, but I wanted to bring it up on the show really quickly. I guess this is definitely not a win for black people. Jon Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Just hearing about what happened with him, I think the story that I've heard so far is that he ran a red light, crashed into a lady's car, and she was pregnant and broke her arm. His car was totaled, and he got out and ran. And then at some point came back and grabbed some stuff out of the car and disappeared for like at least a day before he finally turned himself in. And he's been stripped of the UFC light heavyweight belt and I guess kicked out of the UFC, and he's probably going to do some jail time, and that's just a shame, man.
Damn. Now, was he like high or something like that, or we don't know?
We don't know. I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and his theory is that maybe he disappeared like that before turning himself in because maybe he had some drugs in his system that might go away after a certain amount of time. And he did get caught with having cocaine metabolites in his system a couple months ago. So. And they say that, he's been kind of wild and having this reckless kind of behavior. I wouldn't necessarily count that out. And it's just a disappointment. And, because he really could have been an example. I remember Anderson Silva said something like that because they're supposed to be really good friends. And I don't know, I think on the Joe Rogan podcast they were talking, maybe it had something to do with brain trauma and head injuries and things of that nature. Too much hits on his frontal lobe, which results in, poor impulse control or whatever. But I don't know. It's just a sad thing because he's really the best, and he could have been a star. But yeah.
Well, I think this goes into something I've been thinking about more as of late, and it's something that we always, people within the black community always tend to go back to, and it's just like reliance on having athletes as our heroes. And with the Floyd, Mayweathers, Michael Jordans, and so on and so forth, it seems like with a lot of like these. That shit, damn near every black star that we do have, in every arena of sport there tends to be some type of weird scandal. Now, I'm sure some of the reason why is because of the fact that they're black.
Yeah, and more scrutinized and looked at for those type of things.
Because I was pissed that no one really talked about Ben Roethlisberger and when he raped that girl or something. He did something to that girl. And it was said he did it, but he settled out of court, and we only heard about it for maybe like a week or two, and it disappeared. Michael Vick is fighting dogs, not even people, not even humans. And
apparently there's debate on whether he actually did it or not, or whether people were just doing it at his house. Yeah.
And this man has to go, he went on 60 minutes or some shit, and he was apologizing?
Yeah, and
being a good nigga.
I mean, they put him through. I think he had to do community service and work at he had to get like a job at a supermarket or something, and where ironically they're selling dead animals for people to eat, which were probably brutally killed. But yeah, man, it's interesting to see how they're quick to hang, a black athlete on or any type of black celebrity for things that aren't even as extreme as, you know, some of the things that these white athletes and other celebrities do.
I mean, yeah, and actually, well, before I get into another part, this reminds me of that, what the last poet said about, you know, niggas play football, basketball, baseball while the white man chops off his balls.
That makes me feel, I guess I'm in a real militant mind frame right now because I just saw Rosewood for the first time this weekend. My girl, she sat me down. She was like, "You need to see this." So that movie is really something. And that quote that you just said just brought back those images.
Have you seen Fruitvale Station?
I've been meaning to see it. I have not seen Fruitvale Station, but I did see the actual video of what happened to Oscar Grant.
Okay. I've seen neither, but I have the film. I just haven't watched it yet, though. I was trying to watch it with my mother, but she knows about the story and she doesn't really want to watch it. And
how ironic that Baltimore's police commissioner, Commissioner Batts, is the same commissioner who was over the Oakland Police Department at the time that happened.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
And all that shit he was talking about on Midday with Dan Roderick. But when it comes to these, I said what I said about the black community relying a bit too much on these athletes, and it kind of goes. I think we talked about the Goes to Cornell West article on the show. Did we?
We might have talked about it before the show. We might have mentioned it a little bit on the show. I'm not sure if we really went into it though.
Okay, well, I guess for the listeners out there, to make a long story short, Michael Eric Dyson, a public intellectual, and he's a professor at, I believe, Georgetown University. He came out with this 10,000-word kind of rather scathing yet personal article in The Republic on Cornell West and kind of like his demise, kind of sort of becoming a bit too mainstream for what his profession calls for and not putting out real scholarship. And the thing about the article, I think we did talk about this off air, was the fact that I do agree with Michael Eric Dyson and what he said, but the thing is, I don't think we really needed an article like this, based on what's been going on in the black community between people getting killed and, all these weird things that have been going on between the cops and, some of the cops that are killing, that are involved in some of the killings of these black men are black. So I was just thinking that maybe it wasn't a good time to come out with the article. What do you think about that?
I think it's weird because, I hate to see black people fighting in public, especially when it's on a medium that is, primarily consumed by white people because, they just love to see niggas fight. But at the same time, I think that it's an important conversation to be had because it seems like now, our public intellectuals and politicians and, just figures in general, they kind of skate by a little bit. And I think Michael Eric Dyson did even use that term in that essay that he wrote. And, when people are skating by, especially in the days and times that we're living in now, I think it's important to, hold our people to task and, keep them on the mission of, what it's supposed to be about. And he did, point out some things about how Cornell West criticizes other people for, getting too close to celebrities and enjoying that lifestyle, and then he turns around and does the same thing, and, how it's all counterproductive or whatever. So, I do think that the valid points that he took to Cornell West, I think it serves as an example of what other upcoming, black intellectuals and leaders, it kind of shows them the standard of, what to do or what not to do,
Yeah, I can see that, and I think nowadays we do have way more black public intellectuals that are starting to come in with I guess with the popularity of a lot of websites such as the Huffington Post and stuff like that, who kind of use a lot of black intellectualism when it comes to their articles. To content,
Also, the Atlantic and stuff like that as well, and all these new names or newish names that are popping up onto the mainstream scene, especially with this whole Baltimore thing. You have Ta-Nehisi Coates, he was kind of already out there. You have what's his name, DeRay. I can't think of his last name right now. You have D. Watkins, you have people like M.K. Asante, you have like all these different people who are kind of bursting on the scene and changing the narrative and, kind of setting things straight for, what's happening now. And it seems like, at least for the moment, they're true to the mission and not grandstanding for, personal gain, which is kind of cool. And I guess it goes to what you were saying. It seems like our heroes may be shifting a bit more from the athletes to the intellectuals, and it seems like athletes, in some sense, some of them are kind of stepping up to, play their part in things that are happening and not necessarily, be too worried about backlash and things like that. Because, back in the day, you had people like Muhammad Ali and, who, took stands on issues that happened. And it's like, he was an athlete, but he also, stood for something. So, I like to see when Carmelo Anthony comes to Baltimore and it's not really publicized and stuff like that, but he's out here, showing support. And things of that nature. And it's like, the athletes are being kind of held to task to, do something to give back as much, money as we put into them.
It's a good thing, but at the same time, we have all these rappers who don't exactly do that to a certain extent. I think at this point, I sometimes feel the athletes, they do way more for the people. I know they do, but I guess it's different for them because they're kind of forced to, like how the NBA they have the NBA Cares, and I think NFL they have like different weird foundations they're affiliated with or they have anyway.
That's true. But I do think that I don't know. I think I said this before on previous shows, but it does seem like there is a certain consciousness that's, brewing or coming back into fashion within the black community. And, even when it comes to rappers, there are more rappers who are doing things, out in the open and kind of behind the scenes. Like, I think Jay-Z donated a lot of money to Be More United, kind of under the radar. And then, of course, you had Joey Badass. He was protesting out in New York. I think Wale came out here and talked to some school kids and was doing stuff out here. Well, he's from the area, kind of. But, and, Beyonce did a little thing for it. And, there's a list of other people who are coming out. Your boy Prince, he supposedly wrote a song for Baltimore, which I guess we'll have shortly.
Oh, interesting. Now, I mean, but then, there's a fine line between, I guess, self-promotion and actually helping the cause.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a big issue as well. But the guy, I can't think of his name right now, but the guy who was dancing like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
He made the point that because, people were criticizing him for it, but, he always dances like Michael Jackson in the street. That's just something that he does. And he was basically just like, whatever you do, whatever your art and talent is, lend it to this situation or any situation, and at least try to do what you can with your art to play your part. And I thought that was a like a fitting way to look at it. So it's like, I'm sure there are some self-promotion aspects to it, but at the same time, it's like, whenever you have a movement or like a swelling, a swelling of, consciousness, you kind of need a soundtrack to that, Like in the 60s, you had Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, And that's kind of like the song that'll define the era. And I think now, with the Ferguson situation, the song that's kind of defining it, to me at least, is that J. Cole song where he's singing on it.
Yeah.
And then he performed it on Letterman, and so and then he didn't even put it on his album and all that. So it's like, I do think that art definitely plays a part in any movement, and you can tell when it's genuine and real. And I think that it is important that artists do that. It is a fine line, but it's also like, it's better than doing a song about throwing hundreds in the strip club when, you have all this stuff going on,
Yeah, it's very true. Actually, when I don't know, that guy never ran across my mind when it came to self-promotion. I kind of felt like he was doing it because I think I've seen him around before, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fixture kind of here, and but I guess the people who don't know, or people who aren't from here, he's been getting his criticisms and all of that type of stuff. And I think he did some interviews where he was promoting himself on there. But what are you supposed to do when you're an artist? In your interview, you say, okay, I'm this person, I did this for this, and go check me out here, here, and here. So I mean, there's always a bit of self-promotion, but if you're doing what you do for the cause, then, do what you do for the cause, because you're going to do what you're doing not for the cause anyway, And it's almost like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, but, do something.
Well, I guess it's, like the way when Chief Keef made that big splash years ago with I Don't Like, and I didn't understand where this popularity was coming from and what he was talking about, age, 17? And you simply told me, well, at least he's not, out in the street killing people. I said, yeah, I guess that's true, I guess. But, I guess, what you said about self-promotion being damned if you do, damned if you don't. If I recall properly, I believe, Al Sharpton in his, Rejected Stone, he kind of, said the same thing, because so many words he said. Well, I mean, he does come out and say that people get on him about promoting various things that happen when it comes to black people, civil rights period, and having cameras come, and he simply said, well, if I don't do that, then how would anyone know what's going on? And he says that he knows that when he comes to certain places, he does it to bring more attention to these places so people can talk about it. And, I think every black person has their things about Al Sharpton, but he has a very good point. And, it's the same thing, with Martin Luther King and, his organization when they wanted cameras so it could be, you know, televised all throughout the world so people could see what's going on here.
Yeah, that's very true. And I don't know, it's like, you know, being that we weren't around back then, it's kind of hard to gauge, but I guess now, us being in, you know, the type of culture that we're in, where everybody is just wilding out and doing anything for their 15 minutes of fame, there's always that, you know, suspicion and distrust of anybody who's coming out and trying to do something, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, you know, you're better off doing something than nothing most times. And it's like, you know, you never know what can come of it or what attention you might bring to it, or, you know, you might enlighten your fan base to come and look at something that they might not have checked out before. So, you know.
Yeah.
I remember, it was interesting though, it's funny, you were, off air, you were talking about Jen, MC Jen, and I remember he was under fire because it seemed like every tragedy that came out, he did a song about it or something like that, and it came off as very, I guess, tempting tragedy for self-promotion, but, you know, it turns out that he became a born-again Christian and stuff like that, so, you know, maybe that was his way of expressing himself musically and trying to do it in a positive way instead of, you know, some of the lyrics that he was previously rapping before.
Yeah. Yeah, I can, yeah, man, I forgot all about Jen, man. Yeah. I can see that. But I guess going back to athletics real quick, hip-hop wise for this podcast, we now know, especially the listeners out there, we know what Roy Jones Jr. has been up to now.
Oh yeah.
I guess he commentates the big fights.
Yeah, good to see him doing something, because you know, his rap career kind of fizzled out a bit.
I mean, I'm looking now. I didn't know that he had, I didn't know he had 2 albums.
Yeah, I Smoke, I Drink. That was from his second album, wasn't it?
Yeah, Headbangers Volume 1, and then the first album was 2 years before that, Round 1, the album.
That was the one that had, Y'all Must Have Forgot.
Yep, that's number 2, produced by Mr. Lee.
What's interesting is Roy Jones, you know, just that song, I Smoke, I Drink, I'm supposed to stop, but I can't. That's a thing. Like, that's something that's iconic in hip hop, and you know, people still say that however many years later, and I don't see them ever stopping. So he's made his mark on hip hop culture.
Yeah, well, you know, thinking about it, I guess we can go into athletic people turned rappers. I guess he probably did it. I don't know. Maybe between and this is like really off the top of my head. I guess between him and Shaq, who have had like the biggest imprint.
Yeah, I mean, Shaq is one of the only people to have a song with both Jay-Z and Biggie on the same track.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And
Shaq has numerous gold albums and at least one platinum album, I believe.
That's right, yeah, he does. And I'm assuming Shaq Fu, the video game, didn't do bad either.
I remember Shaq Fu, and he had a soundtrack that came out with that, didn't he?
No, I don't recall.
I thought he probably had something musically related that had to do with that.
Well, I think it was Go ahead.
And then I was going to say, I guess musically, most recently, he was known for his freestyle, where I think he asked Kobe Bryant how his ass tasted.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we already know that Kobe's rap career nothing had ever had, because his album was unreleased, right?
Yeah. I don't think his album ever came out.
I come to think about it, it's funny. Do you randomly remember like the Will Smith album that came out some years before, like the hit soundtrack, and like the album cover, it's like him just sitting like on a couch, like, kind of smiling, looking happy, and being rich, I guess.
I do remember him coming out. That was his album after Millennium.
Yeah, I think so. And he had like some type of like corny ass duet with him and Jada Pinkett or something like that.
I barely remember that.
Okay, well, it just
Born to Rain. I see it.
Yeah, because it just popped in my head that like that album cover is pretty similar to Kobe's cover that came, and I think that album was supposed to come out like 2002, 2001. But I think it was a smoking section article that talks about Shaq's first album, and actually that it was, in so many words, a good album. Like based on the production that he had, and I'm assuming he had help with writing it too. Didn't he have like a St. Ives commercial too, like with Wu-Tang, or
he probably
was by himself?
It's probably by himself. A lot of people had St. Ives commercials back then, but yeah, I mean Shaq, he definitely capitalized off of his fame, like to the fullest. I mean, video games, movies, rap albums. I guess another athlete turned rapper is remember Allen Iverson?
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, I think his rap name was Jules or something like that.
Yeah.
And he had a song called 40 Bars, and maybe the song was just called Jules. Oh yeah, Allen Iverson, a.k.a. Jules, 40 Bars. And I remember it not being horrible back then, but people definitely didn't seem to like it. But
well, I would say that, I mean, it's obvious that Allen Iverson, he had an influence on fashion within hip hop. Well, I guess you can say Roy Jones and Shaq actually had, well, maybe not Shaq, but Roy Jones had like some type of footprint on hip hop to a certain extent.
Yeah. I mean, athletes have made an impact on hip hop, and another one is Chris Webber.
What's on with the Fab Five? Oh, you talking about him just rapping?
I'm talking about him producing. I think he raps too, but he produced some tracks on Nas's Hip Hop Is Dead.
Yeah, I know that was the problem with it. But he was a part of, I think it was him. He was a part of like the Fab Five too, as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think so. Yeah, him, Jalen Rose, and some other people, and you know how they wore the shorts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I must say that was probably one of the best sports documentaries I've ever seen.
I don't know. Did I see that one? I might have saw something about it. Oh yeah, Chris Webber. He had a song. Oh wow, I didn't know he was rapping even back then. I see a complex article about NBA players in hip hop, and he had a song called "Gangsta Gangsta" with Corrupt back in 1999.
Yeah, it's pretty early.
Oh, and who can forget Meta World Peace?
Oh, that's right, yeah. I forgot he had an album. Didn't he have like 2 albums?
I'm not sure. I didn't know he actually came out. I know he came out with like a lot of singles and songs and stuff, and one of them was that song "Champions," and I can't front. That song was hard.
You know, so Allen Iverson, he never came out with an album. He came out with like 2 mixtapes, right? Something like that.
As far as I know, he came out with like 1 or 2 freestyles, at least that I heard.
Now the thing is, if he came out with like, I think like, you know, in his heyday, you know, especially since he had people wearing cornrows and the Iversons, and you know how in like the big earrings, you would think that if he came out with an album like, during that time, like around what, like 2003. It would have gone gold, especially, you know, since everybody, you know, albums were selling crazy around that time anyway.
Yeah, and the thing too, like, out of everybody who's, you know, out of all those people who put out albums and who put out music, he was the most stereotypical rapperish.
Yeah,
like,
because
I can't even. I mean, you can't. Like, if you didn't know Shaq rapped, you couldn't picture him as a rapper.
Yeah, especially not Kobe. I mean, because isn't he like dressed up on that album cover too or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Especially back. I mean, like maybe now you could see some of these people as rappers, but not back then.
Yeah.
But you know who's actually kind of dope is Iman Shumpert from the New York Knicks.
Like he raps.
Yeah, he's pretty nice. Like, I thought that you hear some of his tracks before. He has like a bunch of tracks on SoundCloud. I think basically what he does is get injured and then record mixtapes. But you know, he's pretty good. I actually found myself riding around to a couple of his tracks before. I'm just looking at this complex list. Delonte West.
Oh, I never knew you had one.
Yeah, he seems like somebody who could make it. Steve Francis, I didn't know he was rapping.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's right. Well, you know, the thing about Delonte West, though, is that, you know, I'm not too surprised. I mean, he was, you know, supposedly having sex with LeBron James's mother.
Yeah. And, was that the one who we were calling Lil Boosie? Lil Boosie badass who was watching the game? Because he looked like Lil Boosie. I think he was playing for the Wizards at the time.
I don't remember that.
I forgot who I was with, but yeah, like, and he just kept fouling and stuff like that. And then when you look at, you know, his persona and everything, it just fit just the way he plays, and you know, it's not surprising that he's a rapper. And I think I want to say Meta World Peace had a song with Mobb Deep, or if he didn't, he was either in that video or he was in theirs, because he's from Queensbridge.
Yeah, I recall him on the One Epstein podcast.
Oh yeah.
He was talking about his upbringing or whatever like that.
Yeah. He's a very interesting dude. I'm surprised. What's his name? He used to play for the Bulls, who cross-dresses. Dennis Rodman. I'm surprised he never came out with an album.
He has more important things to do. You know, he's the leader of North Korea's homeboy.
Yeah. He has basketball diplomacy and all that.
I mean, yeah, think about it. I mean, I'm pretty sure basketball is probably, behind soccer, probably like the most popular sport in the world.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, it'd be like, you know, all that I do is get a fucking crate and you can play basketball.
That's how we used to do it.
Yeah, it's very convenient.
Yeah, crate in the alley, and you know, my theory on the racist, not racist, but the race stereotypes in basketball, right?
What's that?
It's that you know, how like white people are known for shooting threes and black people are known for having handles and dribbling.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, you know, we played on a crate nailed to a tree in an alley or in a backyard. So it's like you don't have like a regulation size hoop and all that other type of stuff. So you kind of really learn how to dribble and do a whole bunch of tricks and all this other type of stuff. And that leads to black people's style of, you know, that Allen Iverson street ball type stuff. But, you know, white people being more, you know, affluent many times, you know, they might have more access to regulation size courts and hoops and things like that. So, you know, that gives them more time to really practice shooting and, you know, banging them threes and stuff like that.
I never thought about it that way. Makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, I came up with that theory. I think I was in high school when I used to play basketball, and I think one time we went to one of my teammates' houses for something. It was like way out in Howard County somewhere, and he had a basketball court in his basement. And I said, "Oh, that's why he can shoot threes so well."
I mean, you know, I think it's also that too, in the fact that, you know, if you have a crate, you know, that's like, you know, that's square compared to a hoop, it's like it's even harder to shoot.
Yeah.
If I'm to think about it, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, like how you have, Allen Iverson, he was pretty much kind of sort of seen as like as a pretty decent shooter though. But like, you know, let's say like John Wall or like Gilbert Arenas, like these types of people, they would like dribble and their main thing was like going straight into the post to try to, you know, like get a foul or just try to get the ball somewhere near the hoop.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they always say, I know like when John Wall first came into like the game, they always said that, you know, he needs to like, he just can't be doing that because, you know, I think they invested like, you know, at that point $60 million or something like that, and they needed him, so they couldn't afford for him to be doing that shit every 5 minutes. And so that's when I think he kind of got a bit better with, you know, shooting threes.
Yeah. I just remember on NBA 2K back in the day, just bucking them shots like dirt in the whiskey.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I heard that line in various rap songs.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, even like, you know, I mean, Michael Jordan, he wasn't really known as like a sharpshooter either.
No, he wasn't, but he was clutch with it.
But see, you know, the thing about Allen Iverson is that I think that he kind of, I guess in a way, LeBron probably could have been seen as maybe the second coming of like Allen Iverson, if not rather than Michael Jordan, if Allen Iverson did things the right way. I mean, 'cause, you know, he never practiced.
Yeah.
If he would have practiced. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of. Yeah, although, I mean, what's that too? And I mean, although he's short too. But I mean, the shit that he would do, not fucking practice, he would do 40 bars and then come straight out and just play basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I heard what's his name on ESPN now that everybody hates, conservative.
Stephen A. Smith.
No, not him. Former player, Charles Barkley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he said something about if he would have practiced and been on his conditioning and stuff more, you know. I think he said something about that's one of the things that he kind of regrets from his career. But, you know, I guess he's doing all right now.
I mean, he is. And, you know, people are getting on him about his weight and all this and that. You know, we see Michael Jordan. I think I saw some picture of him at some type of event. And he had someone that looked younger than me on his arm. And He looks slim and firm.
He's looking all old and stuff.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the thing. He does look old, but but I mean, even him, I mean, it's interesting just like to see, like to find out what these athletes, what used to do before games. And did I ever tell you about like that? I think I mentioned to you like a while ago. I read the Cigar Aficionado article on Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this man said he would smoke a cigar before games, especially if he was driving to the games and he was in traffic.
Yeah, and he feel like it calmed his nerves or something.
Yeah, he said especially like when like the playoffs, he would smoke usually he would smoke before every game. And he was coming smelling like straight cigars, and people but after a while they got kind of used to it though.
I mean, another thing, what's his name? Meta World Peace, he had a song called Henny at Halftime.
I wonder how true that is.
I mean, he said, he said, when he first started playing in the NBA, I guess when he used to be real wild, he used to drink some Henny at halftime, and I wonder if that contributed to the infamous, what was that called, the Malice at the Palace?
Are you talking about when he kept? Are you talking about when he was fighting, or when he was killing us, shooting threes?
That fight, that big ass fight that happened that time.
Oh yeah, with the Pistons when he was still on the Pacers, right? I think.
Yeah. That was crazy. It's crazy that I even saw that because I so rarely watch basketball, and one of the times when I happened to be watching it. The biggest fight ever in sports history breaks out.
Yeah, that was just a straight embarrassment to black people.
I mean,
I think about it. They already think that at the time, the only thing we're good for is for their viewing pleasures of having us shoot balls through hoops and shit.
Yeah. And
now these niggas are giving us a full-blown boxing match. Oh, now we don't gotta wait for the newest Mayweather fight.
I mean, like, I think it's a shame that it has to be like that, that whole race thing, because, there is something about the mind state of an athlete. That competitive nature and that aggression and I guess that testosterone and all that, I think that has a lot to do with, when things like that happen and, when sports players get in these controversies and things like that. Usually, I think it's the thing that makes them great is also the thing that leads to them doing crazy, wild stuff. And then at the same time with that particular incident, a fan crossed over into the sports player's domain. And once you break that barrier, when you step onto that court, you kind of get what's coming to you. And, it's the same thing with, when a fan hops on stage with a rapper, like Action Bronson slamming people off stage. Like, you got to respect people's place of work.
Wait, he's done that?
Who, Action Bronson?
Yeah.
He's known for doing that.
No. I mean, he looks so unhealthy. Sometimes I just can't see it.
I mean, yeah, he's known for slamming people off. I mean, it's to the point where, I remember him talking about how that is kind of overshadowing his music and his performances, and he thinks that people come to his shows just to get slammed off stage.
I mean, I don't know. Well, I guess first of all, that wasn't a shot. Shout out to Action Bronson.
Yeah.
This is a whole nother conversation, but I guess we can get to this a little later. But I say that because we've talked about rappers that look unhealthy, and sometimes they'll even tell you that they're unhealthy. And you just don't want them to go out or look like Bicky or go out like a big pun.
Yeah, man, Big Pun. I mean, it just hurt my heart, man. That's it's like one of my favorite rappers top 5 favorite rappers of all time, and just, you know, just that weight, man. It's just not good. And, you know, there's a list of rappers who look unhealthy, and, you know, I hope they get it together. You know, I'm proud of Fat Joe for getting himself together the way he did.
Oh, yeah, and Rick Ross.
Yeah, Rick Ross, he's working on it. And, you know, it's not even just, you know, weight issues, but there's, you know, sleep issues and stuff like that. Like how, what's his name? What's that singer's name? I can't think of his name right now. Everybody loved him. Fairly recent new singer, like Real Hood from New Orleans. Oh man, I can't think of his name right now, but he had a seizure on stage or something like that, and like fell out and hit his head and was in a coma for a bit, I believe. And I remember Nicki Minaj came and brought him like flowers and stuff like that. And it's like all of that, you know, just from the grueling schedule of, you know, touring and, you know, like media dates and stuff like that. It's like, you know, rappers aren't getting enough sleep, they're not eating right, they're probably drinking too much, and, you know, all that takes a toll on your body.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure, like, you know, like you know, I will say when it comes to, I think, a lot of these instances, these situations, I think a lot of it also has to do with weed. You know, you're smoking these different strains of weed from all over the country, if not the world, or shit all over the world. They're having different effects on your body, and, you know, maybe it gets you more lazier than usual, or whatever like that. Like, I don't know, like, Currency, like, on the Warren Epstein podcast, he said that usually when you see him, like, smoking weed, or like when he smokes weed, most of the time it's to find the right weed to smoke. And usually when you see him with a blunt, he's probably just testing it. I'm like, what type of shit is this? So, I mean, like, that alone is kind of crazy. So he's smoking all these crazy blunts. He doesn't know where his weed's really coming from half the time. He's just smoking it.
I mean,
and we know
that's a dangerous situation right there.
I mean, yeah, you know, and we know how, you know, Rick Ross, he likes his weed, you know, and I'm sure other rappers do too. Actually, was Big Pun, was he a weed smoker? I know he was a drinker, but...
Probably.
But yeah, man, like, I mean, even not like, you know, not even like when it comes to obesity, just like even just like plain drug use. So like Danny Brown, I think I told you a while ago, I'm kind of worried about him, based on his, you know, his various habits or whatever like that.
Even Kid Cudi.
Yo, yeah, Kid Cudi, who I said, man, worried about him, like, almost, like, maybe, like, a year or two before he had that shit where the liquid cocaine incident where he ripped the door and shit.
Like, how do you rip a door off the hinges in a hotel? Like, especially, you know, Kid Cudi, like,
yeah.
You know, you could see, like, a Freddie Fox or somebody maybe doing that, but Kid Cudi?
Yeah, that was kind of crazy, man. But like when I heard that, because it's something about, because we know, like, based on like what we've been hearing with these different podcasts, hip hop podcasts, that coke was a big thing, of course, when hip hop in hip hop's infancy. But now it's kind of sort of died off with, you know, I guess when crack came around, and, you know, I guess hip hop just became a Hennessy and weed and 40 type of thing.
Yeah.
But then, so then when I hear about a rapper mentioning coke, like doing coke in their songs, I take it seriously. So when I heard him say something about doing lines of coke, I said, oh shit, this nigga's on coke and now he's gonna go crazy. Now look what happened.
recently, I think it was DJ Paul in the interview. He said that 3-6 Mafia was the first group to ever talk about doing hard drugs on a song, and they weren't afraid to do it. And he was like, a lot of them groups that they were around were all doing that stuff at the time, but they weren't talking about it on the song. But 3-6 Mafia, they weren't afraid. So that's one of their legacies in hip hop, I guess.
I mean, that makes it look, because if you look at like their discography, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, 1992.
Yeah, so you have 92, and I was about to say something about 3-6 Mafia. I can't think of it right now.
I just remember that song off their Little John album, The Blow, the Blow, the Pill.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The Herb. I mean, that song just made you want to do some things that you don't necessarily need to be doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And also what's interesting about 3-6 Mafia is that they were also on Loud Records as well.
Oh wow, they were on Loud Records.
Yeah, and I think if I recall properly, they were like kind of like one of like the first like part of like the earlier groups that came around. Kind of sort of. But they just had that little, that little niche, and they stuck with it and did what they did. But, because I know, like, Steve Rifkin, he kind of, whenever he, like, talks, or when people bring Steve Rifkin up, other than, like, him, like, starting, like, the whole thing about, like, the street teams, they also talk about him bringing up 3-6 Mafia, as well as the Wu-Tang and the Mobb Deeps on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting.
I mean, he also brought up Xzibit from the West Coast.
That's what he did.
Yeah, man. Them first two albums, At the Speed of Life and 40 Days and 40 Nights. I love those albums. And then it was interesting because Xzibit's third album came out on Loud Records, but it was, mostly produced and executive produced by Dr. Dre. And from what I can remember, that was probably like the only artist that Dr. Dre worked with, that intensely, who wasn't on Aftermath. And it was like, he was all on the Chronic 2001 and had Eminem on his project, and it was like he was like Aftermath, but not officially Aftermath,
Yeah. No, third album was Restless, right? Yeah, Restless.
Yeah, Restless.
I remember he had that. I'm pretty sure it was on that album. He had that song with the licks. I think like track 4 or track 5. And
You talking about call it what you wanna call it.
Yeah.
Call it. Bring it if you really want it. Gotta put no.
Something on it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was I can never remember any of the licks names, but he said, "I get too drunk, I rock a party on crutches."
Oh yeah, I remember that. Now the licks was I know J-Ro is one of them, and Tash was another, because I remember Tash had a solo joint called Tash Life. They used to play on the box all the time, and that was my joint.
You see, the thing is, I think the licks are, like, highly overlooked, because they had, like, this weird, because they were, they're West Coast, but at the same time, they came up in the 90s, but I think the thing about them was they kind of had like that jazzy type of vibe, kind of, like Digable Planets or the Far Side to a certain extent. But they happened to be fueled by alcohol as opposed to, weed that the Digable Planets and Far Side, what they were repping. and I think it gave them more of an edgier sound that made their sound more East Coast than anything, kind of, sort of. Well, actually, Digable Planets is weird because I think Butterfly's from Seattle, I think. Anyway, but he reps New York on I think the first album. That's weird. That's really weird. I never realized that. But yeah.
I was going to say, the thing, crap, I was going to say something, I just forgot. But, what were you about to say?
Well, no, actually, I'm about to, because now I'm curious to see. Yeah, Ishmael Butterfly Butler, yeah, he's from Seattle. Ladybug, as we know, is from Silver Spring. And Doodlebug, who I have issues with personally, well, not personally, but I just have issues with, is from Philly.
And they were a West Coast group.
They were based in Philly. Oh, this is more weirder because they rep New York on the first album.
But what year did the first album come out?
The first album came out 93. I thought I was going to say 94. The second album came out in 94.
I guess you had to be from New York back then. The only other rapper who was popping from Philly was Kool D, and that was in the 80s.
But then he wasn't exactly, well, I guess he kind of was. I remember an ex of mine, he was asking me, I remember this shit. He was like, I think I told you the story too. He said, "Yeah, I heard you're like you're a hip hop guy, but I don't know." And he's like, "What are you listening to?" And I said, "I listen to so and so, Kool D." He said, "Oh man, that's my fucking shit." So maybe I shouldn't. But he was from Jersey though, so maybe Jersey, Philly, maybe some type of weird,
the South Jersey type thing.
Yeah.
But I think I remember having I remember being strictly hip hop and there being a long conversation about Kool D and basically comparing Gucci Mane to Kool D, and it's like people that say Kool D is hip hop, but then they'll say Gucci Mane isn't hip hop. But when you look at the way the rhymes are, it's not too much that's different.
See, the thing is, though, you have to put these albums with, you gotta historically contextualize these albums. Okay, so we know in the 80s there weren't like a lot of Big Daddy Kanes and rock, and this is why they are who they are, because they weren't people rhyming like Kane or Rakim or Kool G Rap especially. Because actually in certain instances, I would kind of say Kool G Rap is probably above them to a certain extent.
Above Big Daddy Kane and Rakim?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah, I would say.
Oh man.
But the thing about all three of them, they rhymed in their own different way. Now maybe with me, I'm more of a Kool G Rap type of person. But and this is something that that hip hop people always say, that Kool G Rap doesn't really exactly get his props. But we do know that supposedly, when Big Pun actually met him for the first time, he bowed down to him and kissed his ring. Yeah.
And you know what? Matter of fact, when you said Kool G Rap, I immediately thought Big Pun, and I was like, okay, yeah. And I love that 4, 5, 6 album.
That's the one. That was like 95, 96, right? When he's like one of the later ones.
Yeah, it was mad violent, and it had that song with Nas on it. The Fast Life of Fast Cars. Everywhere we go, people know who we are.
Okay, yeah, I haven't listened to that song. That album so long. Like, I don't know. For real, like the only Kool G Rap. I go back to the first one, him and DJ Cole, or that one. But other than that, I'll go back to the album that the review that you had on your wall from the source. From like way back in the day, Gicana.
Yeah, Giancana Story, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that was a cool album.
I mean, he really hasn't ever really dropped anything whack.
Yeah, no, man, so that could be a whole nother conversation because we always have like certain people, especially in Redman, I think is the main one with us. Like we'll say, oh, he has like a new mixtape out, and we're like, all right, and then we'll go back and forth, like, hey, listen to it. You're like, oh, I listened to one song, two songs, they were hard, and then after that, we don't listen to it no more.
Yeah.
And this is something I'm still going through, like with like Prodigy's album, the one he came out with Alchemist. What's it called? The Albert something.
Oh yeah, the Albert Einstein joint.
Yeah, man, I listened to the first 4 tracks. I'm like, this is hard as shit, and I turned it off, and I haven't listened to it ever since.
And since then, he released it with like bonus tracks.
I know it's really bad because I just know it's a hard album, and I just can't. I don't know, something about it.
Yeah, I think I did listen to the whole thing of that one eventually. Speaking of that, I did go back and listen to the first one they did together before HNIC 2 came out, and that's a dope album as well. Yeah.
I know, I didn't like that. I didn't like HNIC 2 or Return of the Mac.
Oh, man. I mean, Return of the Mac, you got to be in the mood to listen to because it's, a thematic type of album with those samples that Alchemist used. But I loved HNIC 2, and I loved Product of the 80s.
I mean, yeah, I loved Product of the 80s. And see, it was really random how, like, the way, because, like, all those albums kind of came out, like, within, like, the same, I guess, time era, whatever you want to call it. Pretty much they all came out around the same time before he went to jail.
Yeah, he was working before he went to jail, but I don't know, like the Product of the 80s to me was like the leftover tracks from HNIC 2.
I mean, I don't know about that because okay, well, because I think Product of the 80s, that was all Sid Rome's, right?
I think Sid Rome's did a lot. I think maybe Havoc did a couple, and Alchemist might have done some, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it was pretty much the same cast of producers from HNIC 2.
Well, I know the thing that I liked about Product of the 80s was the fact that, since he got deeper into conspiracy theory, that it was more spacey, but at the same time, it was still hard and had this type of 80s vibe where HNIC 2, from what I can recall, it was more soft. It was like East Coast, but it was still like way more soft. Like he had like a song with pianos, like what children singing on it or some shit. I think his son or something. I wasn't.
Oh yeah, the ABC joint. That joint was. I mean, you gotta go back and listen to that. And the video, he was like, was it the video where it was just real bloody?
Oh, wasn't that from Return of the Mac?
Maybe I'm thinking about sit alone in my 4-corner room looking at candles, listening to gangster music, that joint that he did on Return of the Mac. One of them videos. But yeah, man, I don't know, man. I really liked HNIC 2. I mean, of course it didn't sound anything like the first HNIC, but it was a nice project.
Man, the first HNIC is a classic.
Yeah. And
no one ever talks about it. I mean, even the one with BG, like the song that had BG, Young Black Entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I think we talked about this before.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. I mean, it's funny because, like, I think I initially didn't like that song, but then it just grew on me. Because you know how sometimes you listen to an album so much and you have your favorite songs, and then you get tired of your favorite songs, so you go back to the ones that you don't listen to anymore that much, and you start to appreciate those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I was kind of, I guess maybe I was like a bit forced into like liking with Young Black Entrepreneurs because it was all over Rap City. I think the box was still around then. It was the music video always played on cable somehow, some way, especially like late at night. And I know that And also, this was around the time of, you know, it's early, it came out 2000, 2001, so Wu-Tang had the W out at that point, so I was always checking for whenever they would play Gravel Pit. And then at the same time, you had Stan that came out around that time. Yeah, so you had that album, that song too, and I always wanted to see the music video for whatever reason, because I was always amazed that BG and Prodigy, what they were on a track together. And then Baby was even in the music video.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. Number one, just the way we used to have to do things back in the day. I mean, this is I sound like an old man, but like you really had to sit around and wait for a song. And like, you know, I talked about how I used to make the tapes off of Strictly Hip Hop and the Rap Attack and all that, and that was the way that, you know, I had to get music unless I was, you know, taping something off of somebody's CD. But I probably still have VHS tapes of music videos.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's like sometimes, you know, like when you look at certain people who like, and this is actually a conversation we kind of already had, but I think it's slightly different though. When you look at certain producers who talk about, you know, people who use, you know, Fruity Loops or whatever like that, saying they don't know about hip hop, you know, some of these people actually are a bit older than me and you. So you just you can't always say that, because, you know, some of these producers are also people who have done the same things that, you know, that we've had to do when it comes to like to getting music. I remember when I had to wait around for the longest time to listen to it was one Sun NY song.
Oh yeah.
The one when he like, and it's raining and he's just rapping and he's like an angry black man.
That's about me. Call me Sonny because I'm so NY. Yeah, man, and I had to wait for the longest time, every other day at least, to watch that music video. And you know what was terrible about that time? One of the worst things is if you know, sometimes, especially if you were listening to like an underground mix show, a song might come on and you might never hear that song ever again in life.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like, that song will be gone. It's just in your memory. I remember songs from some group called the Alley Cats, and I don't even remember what the songs sounded like.
I remember the Alley Cats.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, they had some joints, and you know, or like after a song was done, this, you know, promotional run, sometimes it'd be gone. Like, it was years until I heard, remember the Outsiders, the Rah Rah?
Yeah.
Like, that song didn't come on that much. It used to come on the box. And once that song was done, its run on the box, I didn't hear that again until I was probably in my 20s.
I mean, shit, even like the, you know, like the real, like the weird artists, like, you know, Booyah Tribe, even them. But that's the thing. Well, I guess we can get into this conversation now, about videos that like had us run and then they just disappeared.
I was just thinking about maybe segueing into the Busy Bone video that you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to get into.
Okay, hold on. Let's just take a break real quick, and then we'll get right back into this Busy Bone video and Busy Bone in general. Once again, this is the Channel 10 Podcast, channel10podcast.com. Listen, subscribe, rate, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, whatever you are, we will be there. Be right back.
Feeling this here. Yeah, son, you can feel it, man. Word up, son. You gotta just do it, yo.
Yeah, man.
Yo, word up, man. It's a different channel, son. Word up, on, man. Word up, watch the channel, son. Different plane now, man.
It's all good.
Word up, all good, baby, in every hood, son. Word up, yo. CNN Network, Channel 10. It's on again.